retirement, he developed cancer, and he has been undergoing cancer treatment. He's had quite a bout with that. I did go to Myron's house the other Sunday and spent an hour and a half with him. And tonight I have what Jim Ryder, he wrote up a letter and said he wanted me to present that. And then I have some comments, and then I have a letter from Myron accepting the award. And I'd like to go through that. Tonight we induct a stellar attorney and even finer man, Myron Charfoos, into the Workers' Compensation Hall of Fame. Myron and Jim Ryder started their law firm in 1977. Well, Jim cannot be here tonight. He wanted me to share with you some of his stories about the man with whom he practiced law for decades and with whom we honor tonight. Here are Jim's thoughts. 1. Myron Charfoos practiced workers' compensation law for 47 years and was a founding partner of Charfoos and Ryder PC. His peers recognize him as one of the finest trial lawyers ever to try a case at the department, later the bureau, and now the agency. During the many years that the agency was at the 6th Street and Howard in Detroit, we all remember that facility, everyone knew in what room they could find Myron from 7 a.m. until the end of the day. From that room, he would debate, fairly negotiate to a successful result, and then dictate his results to his clients. He was a tireless champion for his clients, but was also extremely fair to his opponents, especially if he liked you. Actually, he liked everyone, but just did not let them all know it. Jim described Myron as a curmudgeon. If you look in the dictionary, you'll see that the word curmudgeon is defined as someone who is cranky. And while Myron might seem that way, it is only on the surface, for he's truly a sheep in wolf's clothing. True. Jim says, when we formed our partnership, Myron likely had twice as much business as he did, but he insisted on an equal partnership and an equal draw. He felt it was the best way to form a lasting partnership, and he was right. Jim says, at the time I did primarily plaintiff work, so to learn the defense side, he sat in on a number of Myron's trials and depositions. And Jim says, damn, he's a great trial attorney, probably the best he's ever seen. Today he retired, I enjoyed sitting, to the day he retired, I enjoyed sitting in on all his trials. My favorite Myron story is about a trial he had in front of Sue Weisenfeld. If anybody's over 60, you probably remember her. She was a very nice, very liberal referee. Jim doesn't remember the issue which was being tried, but Myron kept objecting to the opposing attorney's questions. Weisenfeld overruled every one of his objections, but Myron continued objecting. Finally, Weisenfeld said, "This is it, Myron. Get out of my courtroom and don't come back." Myron thought for a second. He got up slowly and said, "You mean you're kicking me out of the courtroom of the most liberal judge on the bench? Thank you." And he started to leave. After she thought about it for a few minutes, Weisenfeld said, "Get back here and sit down, Myron." Exactly. And he continued the trial, and you might guess Myron won. Myron has been married for 53 years to Roberta, also known as Bobby, and has 2 daughters, Deborah, Sandra, and Sandra. He has 5 grandchildren, David, Daniel, Julia, Dustin, and Tyler. And while he is a great lawyer, he is even a greater husband, father, and grandfather. He is a mentor. A mensch, for those of you who don't know what a mensch is a truly honorable and fine man. He is also a second father to the son he wished for, but never had, and that's attorney Daniel Gabriel. Dan regrets he could not be here tonight due to a previous family commitment, but he congratulates Myron on his induction into the Hall of Fame. And now that you've heard Jim's thoughts on this happy occasion, I'd like to share some of mine. I visited Myron on Sunday and talked to him for about an hour and a half. Two of the interesting things I found out about Myron that you don't know is his educational background. He took undergraduate classes at the Detroit Institute of Technology, Wayne State, and the University of Michigan. I asked him, why so many schools? He said he had fun. Yeah. He does not have a college degree, even though he had the necessary credit hours for law school. In those days, you could go to law school without an undergraduate degree if you had enough credit hours, and that is what Myron did. I think he said he had 90 credit hours. And he was admitted to Detroit College of Law, even though he had not taken also, like we all take, the LSAT. After the first semester, he earned a 3.75 average in his first term at DCL. The dean came to him and said, hey, you've never taken the LSAT. Myron said, hey, I've been here one term, I got a 3.75, do I need to take the LSAT? And Myron said, he never did take it. Myron's father, Sam Charfoos, I don't know most of you, he was a well-known national plaintiff attorney. And there was Myron, there was also his brother. And anyway, Sam, the father, started the National Association of Claimants Compensation Attorneys. That was before MTLA, before ATLA. Myron was admitted to the bar in 1967 and started practicing with his father and brother in the firm known as Charfoos and Charfoos. That'd be Sam Charfoos and Larry Charfoos. Here's an interesting fact. One of Myron's earlier cases as a plaintiff attorney, that's what his father and brother's law firm was Fisher versus Lincoln, Tool and I, a case that went to the Court of Appeals in 1971. So that about 4 years after Myron was practicing. Myron represented a worker who drove to work, parked his car in the public street, and severely injured his hip and leg when he fell on an icy sidewalk abutting the employer's property. Both the referee and the appeal board ruled that the injuries were work-related. The Court of Appeals affirmed, and the Supreme Court denied leave to appeal, and this was to remain the law for many years. As we all know, that's been overturned. Yeah, we wish it still was. Okay, not long after the Fisher was decided, Myron left his father and his brother's firm and began doing defense work with for Michigan Mutual. One day he had a deposition with Jim Ryder, who had recently left Levine and Benjamin, that was a strictly plaintiff firm in workers' comp. And Jim had gone on his own. After the deposition, this is what they both told me, Myron and Jim had coffee. Well, I don't think it was coffee, it was probably a drink together anyway. And Myron suggested to Jim that they start practicing together on a 50-50 basis, 50% partners each. Jim, being the honest guy he is, said, I don't have many cases, Myron. But Myron replied, that's okay, a true partnership is 50-50. That statement gives you a true measure of Myron's character. Myron's father, Sam, who I talked about earlier, started the American Trial Lawyers and the Michigan Trial Lawyers Association. He is also a member of the Workers' Compensation Hall of Fame. So, with Myron's induction here tonight, he and his father are the only father-son members of the Hall of Fame. It is ironic, though, that his father was a plaintiff attorney and Myron as a defense attorney. were both inducted into the Hall of Fame. Can you imagine the discussions they could have had during the holiday dinners if his father were still alive? And Myron is a founding member of the College of Workers' Compensation Attorneys as well. On Sunday, when I went over to talk to Myron, I asked him, "What do you want your legacy to be?" He paused, thought for a couple minutes, and answered, "I really enjoy negotiations." He said, "I felt that I could do such a great negotiating job, I could get the parties to settle the case because I could figure out where they both needed to be." And he says, if anything, he says, I was a strong negotiator. This remarkable talent, in addition to being a great trial lawyer who always tried to promote, and this is what Myron wants to try to get across. Very important to Myron, ethics and respect for each other. So I want to extend my sincere congratulations to Myron Charfoos on his well-deserved induction into Workers' Compensation Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, Myron cannot be with us on this joyous occasion, but he wants everyone to know how greatly he appreciates this honor. So he asked me to share his thoughts with you, and here they are. Myron, I would like to thank everyone who was involved in nominating me and selecting me into the Hall of Fame. We have a unique section. Virtually every member, plaintiff or defendant, practices what I and my father have always preached: ethical behavior towards friend and foe. I always tried to practice law as I would want my opponent to practice, with the highest ethics and respect for each other. It is therefore with great humility that I accept this award from the greatest group of Michigan lawyers, the Michigan State Bar Workers' Compensation Section. And he had tears in his eyes. I also want to congratulate Tom Cipher on his induction tonight. It is an honor for me to be inducted with him. And on my behalf, I'd also like to congratulate Tom for his hard work and dedication that have been recognized by his induction into this Hall of Fame. Thank you.